none of that was heard, even though most of it probably was. Happy New Year, happy holidays, welcome back, all that jazz. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, on YouTube, number 242. I'm your host, Greg Gaub. The gang's all here. We got Mike and Don and John and Jim and Dennis and Luff and Garth and John and Dewan and other people. Let us talk slot cars. I have some stuff to show that's not toys, but it's also not club. I went to a nearby track today and got some pictures of that, but I'm waiting for them to back up, so I can't really show them very easily right now. So that'll wait till later. Mike has his hand up. If anybody else has anything they want to share and tell, then put your virtual hand up so I don't miss you. Go ahead, Mike.
I've got Christmas in January. Some of my Christmas money went towards a bunch of stuff. So I've got this wonderful Rodenstock Toyota Celica, which I really love this era of car with the Group 5 stuff. It was the Celica those years was a mini Mustang. It was really close. The Mustang, of course, this is much modified and stuff. And it's a standard sideways pod and stuff, which I'll probably change to a 1 millimeter offset slotted pod. That way I've got more room for the chip, and it's not quite as problematic getting it in. And then I've got a fantasy livery MR slot car. These were all bought from Electric Dreams on their sale thing, and they were like $20 off on most of them. So I've wanted another GT1 Porsche in MR slot car, but they never came out with a real livery. And I sort of like, okay, I've waited for 2 years now. I guess I'll get one. Of course, that will mean that they will bring out a real livery. But at any rate,
It looks great. I mean, unless you're a rivet counter, who cares?
Yeah, I've always liked the Jägermeister. Some people are partial to the Martini and the Gulf, but the Jägermeister is just a nicer livery for me.
Yeah.
Not that I would drink the evil liquid, but
Jaeger bomb.
Yeah. Once you taste it, it's like, oh my God, really?
Very German.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'm uber German, Austrian by, progeny. So what can I say?
You didn't grow up.
No, I didn't grow up there. How can you tell? And then I got the Lola T70 Mark III B.
42.
I wish they had the alternative headlights set up. I like this headlight setup, but the later ones had the longer the double headlight setup, and more like some of the Porsches and stuff like that. But this is nice, and it's standard thunder slot stuff, which means it'll go really well.
Yep.
So.
Have you driven any of them yet, Mike?
No, I just got them last night.
Whoa! So this is like Tony, hot off the press.
Yeah, well, literally, I unboxed it just before we got on. So, and I've got one more coming that's supposed to be here, but the UPS, of course, has skipped my house because, as they are prone to do, they generally skip my house and say it'll be there later, and then it comes tomorrow. So, it's such as it is. But yeah, that's what I've got. It'll be fun. They were quite good deals, I thought. I mean, heck, for $50 for a thunder slot, you can't go wrong. And the same with the MR slot car. So
yeah,
great deals.
Yeah. All righty, good stuff, sir. I assume you're all done.
Yep, done.
All right, I don't see any other virtual hands. Does anybody want to wave their real hands for a show and tell? If not, we'll move on to racing chatter. So if you got past, present, or future racing you want to talk about, Mr. Rose, you got anything? Guess not. Let me see if my photos have backed up yet.
No, not really.
Actually, I've got something this week.
Go for it.
See if I can do this. I actually had a kind of a race on my home track the day before New Year, so New Year's Eve, Tuesday afternoon. Just got a couple of guys around. There were 6 of us, I think, and we ran a couple of primarily IROC events. I don't know if this will work. Does it work from here? Can you see that?
Yep, picture of the race results.
Yeah. Okay. So we ran two. There were 6 of us. We ran 2 IROCs. The first one was with the Revo slot group 2 cars. I ran an Alfa Romeo in red lane and an Escort in blue lane and BMW 2002 in yellow lane. And yeah, we did okay. The home track advantage came out a little bit in that I managed, to beat everybody this time round, but didn't last. I managed the fastest time on each one as well. But everybody enjoyed them. A couple of these guys had never driven on my track, so they were brand new to it. And then second round, we ran 3 Thunderscots. I ran one of the Ferrari 350 Can-Ams in the red lane, and Lola T70, the one with the Ford engine, the number 51 car, the Parnelli Jones car, blue lane, and McLaren M6, Benny Holmes McLaren M6 in yellow. And I got my ass kicked. Well, I'm not badly. I mean, the one lap. I didn't have a terribly good red lane, which is kind of strange because red lane's the good lane on the track. Maybe I didn't clean the tires properly ahead of time. Something I ran out of. I did get the fastest lap, but I came off too much. I think I was pushing too hard. But it was fun. I've got a little bit of a video that hopefully will run. Oh, God. That's not what I was looking for. Why am I not seeing the video? Oh, there it is. This is the Group 2 cars.
How big what's the track footprint?
The track is, hang on, you don't want to see that. Track is, the track is 60 feet and 3 inches per lap. All 3 lanes the same, although the same distance, although they are not equally fast. The red lane is faster than the blue lane is faster than the yellow lane, even though they're all the same length.
How big is the table?
The table is 16 feet long by 6 feet wide.
6 by 16. Looks like a great track.
Yeah,
That's good stuff.
so that was fun. There's 6 of us, but we had a great time. Started, the guys arrived around 2. We had about an hour's practice. We ran the 2 races, and the guys left before it got dark and cold. So it was fine because, the track's the track's outside. It's just on a covered patio, so it gets pretty cold out there pretty quick. And you lose traction when the track gets cold.
Yep.
It's quite temperature dependent. I've found over the years that at around between 70 and 75 is the best temperatures for traction on my track. Anything hotter than that, and it gets slimy, and anything cooler than that, and it doesn't really build up the traction to start with.
California track
Yeah.
only likes
for like reality.
moderate temperatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So realistic.
Anyway, that's the way it goes. So yeah, it was fun. I'll try and do it again a bit more this year, but there's so much racing coming up in Southern California that it's going to be difficult to fit anything in.
Yeah. All righty. Thank you, sir. And Mike, put your hand back up. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, first off, I guess I got a continuation. I don't think I showed this one last. I got the Datsun.
Ah,
Yeah.
And the title of the video that I did was will the slot it hold up against the Revo slots? So let me share.
Okay, go ahead. I'm curious what your findings are, because I've seen a couple of people on Facebook, making that same comparison.
Oh, have you?
Yes.
But I'm going to wait for yours before I say anything. I assume you're trying to share something.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Okay. We did oxygen both races this time. So I put oxygen chips in the Revo slots and the slotted.
Nice.
And, well, I got to get rid of that reflection off of there when I take the picture next time. It sucks.
That's right. The worst spot there. At least you're not covering up the lap times and counts. We don't care about names. We only care about times and counts.
Well, the answer to the question that, if you're wondering, is yes, by nearly half a second at the end. When I tested them, usually when I race the cars, because I'm switching the chips around, I have to set every single car up every time. So I go through 8 cars to set up in the 2 days before the race. Well, the day of and the day before generally. And I had pretty standard lap times. They were running about 8.2 to 8.4 in that range. And the fastest car has been the Opel Kadett, which did an 8.12, I believe, until I went to qualify the Datsun 510, and it cracked off a 7.9, and I was like, wow. Whoa, wait a minute. But since I had done 7.2s, I can that's the finishing order. I thought, well, I'm not going to give myself a smaller tank or anything like that, because it's just in case it was just a one-off. You know what I mean? Well, it wasn't. But I will say I had to put a fair amount of weight. I had 4 pieces of tungsten in there on the side, and one of the slotted tungsten pieces at the rear. The balance of the car with the chip in it was almost perfect, but it was pretty tippy at that point. If you could get a decent lap time, but putting about a 1.5 inch strip of tungsten on each side of it, plus another little section from a thinner tungsten piece, made all the difference in the world. And I did it just before I qualified, or just before I raced. Not even just before a practice even. And it was pretty good in practice, but I couldn't tell for sure. So it was, a wing and a prayer in that regard. So that was another reason I didn't give myself a disadvantage so much. Normally what I would do is I would either cut the power on it, because you can do that in oxygen, or I would adjust the burn rate. Well, I can't adjust the burn rate. That's standard for all of the cars. But I can adjust the tank size and the top end power. I think there's a new motor in this one. I don't know if you can, well, I'll show it afterwards, after I get the others done.
When you held it up earlier, I saw a different label than normal.
Put a wrapper on it,
Yeah, the wrapper is black, which is unusual. Although I've got the new Orica has got a different wrapper than normal. They've got Galileo Engineering printed on it now. So that's one difference. So I won that one running away by about 10 laps, I think, or something like that, which is unusual. Normally the guys are better than that, but they're still having a little bit of trouble with the oxygen stuff, remembering which way to go. I don't know why, but they are. And we did have a couple of short laps, but not terrible. We had none in qualifying and only one in practice. And then two of us had one in the race, the short lap thing there. But it turned out it didn't add the laps sufficiently to make a difference. So it was, I noted when everybody who did, and I had one, but I keep my, I'm doing it enough, and all the time when I'm testing the cars, I keep my eye on whether it's, well, first off, whether it's counting the lap, and second off, you can tell right away if you get a ding if it's a short lap, or the fastest lap rather. So I look up right away and see where it is, and it's invariably right near a lane changer. But who knows what's causing that? Anyway, it wasn't as much of a problem, and we did have one where one of the short laps I adjusted the height of the hall sensor on it, and that seems to make a difference. So I've got relatively strong magnets, and I can adjust the height of the hall sensor to improve it somewhat. But it's kind of critical. It seems like it if you change it one way or the other, if you change it down further, you'll get short laps, and if you go too high, it won't count a lap. So, but we didn't have any problems with the pits especially or anything. So it worked pretty well. It was a pretty good day. And then for the second race,
so before we move on to other cars, and I'm sure I'll ask similar questions as Wayne. Do you know how much tungsten you put into it overall? And did you do any magnet checking to see how much downforce it pulls?
I did not check the magnets.
Okay.
I can do that and report back. I've got the thing sitting right over here. I can do that and see what it is, even at this height. I did change the tires, and I did. I pulled the interior and put a card interior in it because all the Revo slots before have Lexan interiors.
Yeah.
So, I figured, well, at least try and keep it relatively even. That was about a gram, and I don't remember. I can measure that too and see what the interior weighed to see how much difference that made. But yeah, it was a nice handling car once I got the weight in, and the amount of weight was approximately 7 grams. So it was a fair amount.
Yeah, but not all that much. I'd have expected more tungsten.
The car was still significantly lighter than the Revo slots.
Yeah.
So
the reports that I read, and Wayne might have seen other reports, but I know he saw this one, was that the slotted, I don't think he did a whole lot of mods, this guy, but basically the slotted and the Revo were, within tenths. The main difference was that the slotted was quicker down the straights, and the Revo was quicker in the turns because you couldn't throw the slotted around so much.
Which is interesting because the Revo slot motors, I think, are a higher RPM than the slotted one.
Yeah, but that's also angle winder versus inline, right?
True. Yes, it is.
So the ratio might be different.
It is. Truthfully, the angle winder generally gives a little bit better handling because it's got more magnetic downforce.
Yeah. So
it holds the downforce across the rails better because it's it's a wider portion of it that's covered, but it's also, rather than the
Revos tend to have really low downforce though, and
that's true.
And the guy who the post that I'm referring to, he measured the slotted downforce at 19 grams.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which isn't a lot, but you had the same reaction I did. That seemed high for a typical slotted.
Well, I can go measure it after I'm finished with this one here.
Okay, Wayne, did you have any other questions?
Well, I had a slightly different question. I was interested in the same things that you've mentioned there. But what I could see, looking at the photograph, was occupants in all the cars except for the slotted. And Mike covered that when he said he put a card interior in.
Yeah.
I would have. That's what I was going to say. Where are the goddamn drivers?
It was a virtual driver. What can I say?
I just put mine on a magnet Marshall, and it's 161 grams. It's pulling.
Well, you.
Yeah. Well, I'll buy that.
Yeah. Take the magnet out.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys were looking for what it draws on magnet.
No, what the motor pulls. So no traction magnet, just the motor.
I'll let Maurer do that.
And the way you do it is to measure the weight of the car by putting it on the scale on its side.
Yeah.
And then zero the scale. And then turn it onto its wheels.
I have a tool that'll do it. That's fine. I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah.
Take the axle.
Jeremy doesn't care enough.
And run it. Yeah, I don't care enough.
Well, he's got his little.
You're super quiet too, Jeremy.
Yeah, he is. Really, really
Sorry,
way in the distance.
having all kinds of trouble.
All right, I think we're ready to move on to your other race.
Okay. The amount of downforce on that motor is 17. So if you got 19, that's in the ballpark.
It is quite a lot, yeah.
Yeah, it's more than I expected. And the second race I did, I got I think I showed you guys last week the Orica LMP, the yellow and green one that I got, and that one was a much more hard fought race, but I got it by about 3 laps in the end. And you can see here, both Joel and I had short laps, but I was far enough ahead that it didn't make a difference in that regard. And I noticed that there was only one short lap in the entire 125 laps, which isn't terrible. But I had a ding dong race with Ratby, and he missed the lap in the pits because because it went out, and then of course you have to turn the visual indicator went out, and you had to turn the controller on and off, and then you lose a lap every time you do that.
Yep.
So,
but still, that's just one lap.
Yeah, that's just one lap. And he didn't have any missed lap or short laps or anything like that. And I only had one because I paid, like I said, I was paying attention to that, and I sort of keep an eye on the on the lap counter and stuff when I'm doing that, as well as my fuel and everything else. I've gotten to a point where, since I do probably 75 or 100 laps with each of the cars before we have the races, just to be sure that I've got the Hall sensor position right. It's usually set up for these races is 4 or 5 hours worth of work by the time you get done putting a chip in, then rebalancing the car to with weight or whatever to get it to optimum performance. So I'm essentially setting up 8 cars every time we race. I mean, it's fun, but it's not. You know what I mean? It's work, and that was the finish. Now you can see we had 2 LMP throughs and the IMSA Acura, which is exactly the same. Well, not exactly, just the front end piece is different to the Oricas. And interestingly enough, the Little Nemo, the black and orange one in the back, black, orange, and white, I broke the lap record with that car. Nice. Lap record is down to 7.10 now for that car. So I'm going to revisit the Porsche 963s and stuff like that again probably next week, because I've got one of the Le Mans liveried Porsches coming in. I'm kind of a Porsche nut, so now I've got 3 of those 963 Porsches, and so we'll probably have another LMP race next week, and we'll do those. I'll see if I can set it up and see how they fare as far as the lap record goes. But it's been getting faster and faster, and It's been faster since I've been using oxygen because of the controllers, I believe. The controllers are making a huge difference in my driving, for sure. And I found the SCP-3 to be different than my SCP-2, which is interesting because I switched. I set the cars up with the SCP-3 and did the adjustments and stuff like that. And then I, just for the races, I went for my SCP-2, and it was like, holy crap, this is way different. So I had to change everything around. So there's something different in the SCP-3 as far as how it works. That and I tried all three of them differently because I tried to meet out the battery life on them, which actually bit me in the end because I used Joel's too much in the last 10 or 12 laps. At the end of it, his controller was going nuts because it was low battery. So he couldn't handle the car very well, and I'll have to pay attention to that more next week and make sure that I keep that more even. So anyway, it was
Where do you find the difference between your controllers, Mike? Sorry, Mike. Where do you find the difference between your controllers?
The SCP-2 was, well, it was lighter spring for one thing. I noticed that right away. But the sensitivity and the brake adjustments seem to make much more difference than on the SCP-3 than the SCP-2. And it was much easier to drive with the SCP-3. So
did you with the SCP-2?
Yeah, I use an SCP-2 and everybody else has an SCP-3.
Okay. With the SCP-3s, did you ever go and set the brake pod to linear versus standard?
Yes. Well,
So,
you mean to? Did I ever
Linear
set
the whole
no, I did
rotation
not.
of the knob is
okay.
I use curve all the time, mainly
No.
to
We're
prevent
talking
hitting.
so let me explain.
Okay.
I'm guessing no, but what I'm talking about is when you connect to the controller with the app and look at the settings of the controller in the app.
Yeah.
One of the options is the brake knob setting it to linear versus standard. Why they chose that word, I have no idea, but basically linear mode for the brake knob removes the sweep brake from the settings. So the knob then becomes 0 to 10 for its entire rotation. So fully counterclockwise is 0, fully clockwise is 10, and up in the middle is 5 as opposed to what it usually is. So basically the idea was to give finer control over the level of braking by having it spread over the entire rotation of the knob.
Yeah.
Sounds like you didn't do that.
No, I did not do that. But in that vein, I did notice that small movements of the knob made fairly large differences in the braking.
Yeah, that's why they.
And that was quite okay, I thought. I mean, it really worked quite well. I didn't find any more effectiveness with the other side, the
sweep
ABS side, where it would brake hard and then release it.
Yeah.
I haven't found that to be very effective. But
that's
I did find that
it always starts at 100% braking. So even if you turn it way down, it still kicks in at 100 before it drifts off.
Yeah, I didn't find that as useful. No matter where I adjusted it, it didn't seem to make enough difference. And the instant hard braking was problematic because it didn't coast through the turns as well. And one of the problems I'm noticing is that a couple of the other guys, Shiggy especially, is known for hard on the brakes and hard on the gas right away, and it's killing him on my track. It's he's flying off the track much more and not able to control it. You could see the difference from last week to this week if you watch the videos. You can see how I used the Group 2 Escort last week, and I was much better controlled with it than he was because he's so prone to hitting the gas hard right away and not coasting through the corners. Ratby is much more of a coast through the corners type guy, And on my truck, it seems to make a difference. Ratby is much more consistent than any of us. I mean, he will end up a lot of times with, over 125 laps. He'll maybe come off once, maybe twice, and frequently doesn't come off at all. He's a little bit more conservative than I am as far as that goes, because I get this vein of red mist where I'm trying for ultra lap times all the time, and I got to back that off when I race. But I've been better at that lately. So, and I'm not racing as much in the 124th cars, so that makes a big difference as far as how it feels. Operating between the two disciplines is sometimes difficult because the track in Malaga is very much a point and shoot, with very little finesse in the braking and accelerating. It's basically you're on or you're off, and that's about it. It's more hitting your brake points and coasting through the corners as much as you can. So anyway, but it was great fun. We all had a good time. So that's the main thing.
Okay. What about the firmware, Greg? Any thoughts on the firmware on the two controllers?
You know what? I haven't.
Well, there's no firmware to install on the well, I guess there is in the cartridge on the SCP2.
Oh, okay.
But there's, obviously there's going to be programming differences between the cartridge firmware and the SCP3 firmware. The only functionality difference I'm aware of is the braking, and what the knob does, and what the position of the knob is relative to how much braking force is applied when you let go of the trigger. That's the only, but there might be other things.
They cannot be the same firmware, can they, Greg? Because
no,
anything written for the cartridge is not going to function in an SCP3 and vice versa.
Yeah.
Correct. Presumably the source code is similar, except for it's got to have all the differences for the variable settings like the brake option. So I'm not a programmer, but I know enough about programming to know that one character out of place is going to mess something up. So
Yeah.
Well, I know there was, I think it was 4.14a, and it fixed the brake in analog racing. So there was a delay for the brake to take effect, and that firmware fixed that. I know there's a later firmware now, but I wonder if his controller has an earlier firmware and the brake is delayed coming in. Maybe he gets through the turns faster.
I don't think he's using version 4 of anything because he's still stuck. He's still using RCS02, which is version 3 only.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize that.
Yeah, I'm still using version 3.
3.17.
What's that?
I think you'll be 3.17.
For
Even
which
I don't- Even I don't remember what the latest numbers are. I don't.
Well, I remember that the chips that I'm using is 317A.
Yeah.
But I don't know what the firmware is I haven't checked recently in the controllers. I might do that.
Yeah.
See what it is. Greg, I've got a question for you with the braking for getting full knob adjustment. Is that something you have to set every time you turn the controller on, or can you set it and forget it?
You set it and forget it. Yeah. So use the app to talk to the controller, go to the settings of the controller, change it, tap the right button so that it writes those changes to the controller. And from then on, every time you turn the controller on, it's going to use, even if you watch the scrolling letters after you turn it on, at the very, very end of all the nonsense is what mode the brake knob is in. It'll either say brake : standard or brake : linear. So you can prove to yourself whether or not it took just by watching that scrolling message when you first turn it on.
Is that just a setting in the app?
Yep. But you got to do it for each controller because you're basically using the app to tell the controller to be linear versus standard.
Okay. I'll maybe do that for the SCP-3s.
Yeah, it's worth it.
And that, as long as it works that way. Do you have a video on how to do that? Or you just...
I don't have one specifically about that, no.
Okay. All right. So
nothing special, same as you would do to do any other changes to the controller using the app.
You can only do to the SP3.
Correct. It only works on the SCP3,
Oh, okay.
but that's the only one that has the app control anyways. So yeah, you can't change that for the SCP2.
All right.
It's just not a thing.
All right. So I'll do that then, because that, I think for the other guys, especially having them have a little bit better control over the brakes on it, it doesn't seem to make much difference in me. But I was truly surprised at how much difference switching controllers made. I mean, it was like, oh crap. when I got back to mine, it took a little bit for me to get adapted to it.
That's interesting,
because it was so different, and it was much easier to control. It's like the you put a different resistor pack in your analog controller. It felt that different. Now it may just be the settings that I had, but it seemed to be that the sensitivity and the minimum speed were a lot more sensitive or whatever to the in the SCP-3 than it is in the SCP-2.
Yeah.
So
if you copied all the knobs between the two controllers, you were still feeling a difference in throttle mapping. And
big, huge difference. I mean, it wasn't subtle at all. I mean, it was like I was pressing the controller 3/4 of the way down. It felt like it. It wasn't that's not accurate, but I know it's, when you first go, it's like, holy crap, there's nothing at the bottom here, and I can't get it to work. So
have you ever done a throttle a trigger mapping on the SCP-2?
No, I have not. That's probably a good idea.
I mean, if you haven't done it, then they all should basically be a linear map for the trigger response. But it's worth doing, making sure they're all at the same 0, 25, 50, 75, or whatever.
Yeah.
Setting.
Yeah, lots to play with.
You can tweak it to get it.
When I get the oxygen set up down that I'm fairly confident with it, maybe I'll start playing with the controllers a little bit.
Don't
Baby
fix
steps with this
broken.
computer idiot here.
Yeah.
All right, that's all I got.
Talk about your race. You're done. Okay.
The race with the LMP2s, I had a tight race, and it was with Rat B, and it was good. We had a good time. Interestingly enough, comparing the new Orica, the Oricas, and the Acura to the older style Lola was not that significant. The Mazda Lola, the red one in the picture there, has got a different guide set up than the newer ones do. The newer ones have sort of the noseless chassis on it. There's no piece up in front of the guide, but the Lola has the guide that's mounted weird and is completely different. But there was nothing between them. I could go 715s with the Lola right off the bat. So it's not a lot of difference. It's mostly driving, and those cars are so similar that, I'm running at 12.5 volts. So, and then there's a drop, of course, through the power base, but it's, it's pretty even that way. So it was fun. It was a fun race. We enjoyed it. So, okay. That's all I got. Thanks.
All right. Good deal. I'll stop your share for you.
Oh, thank you.
All righty. Next on my screen is Mr. Weber. Go ahead, John.
Yeah. May I circle back for a little bit of show and tell?
Of course.
Okay. Thanks. I've been able to do, since the weather's turning rough again, been able to do a little bit more work on some of my projects. This is the Yenko Stinger. It's sort of coming along. And I discovered, I went back and watched an old video. It's at least a couple of years old, of Michael Nemus working in his shop, doing work in his shop, and I noticed something he did was he polished the finish on his painted car. the car he was working on. He used a polishing wheel on a electric, thingy, and yeah, rotary tool, and so I got some just plain old polishing compound. It was clean and with water, and put that on there and used it on this car and a couple of the others, and it really helped it's a subtle difference, but it really, really helps the finish, at least on mine. Mine, it's probably a dirt problem I have with dust getting in the paint. And then also, let's see here, I had a couple of other things. This is a Strombecker Ferrari Testarossa body. Okay, so I'm going to build something with it, not Strombecker chassis. This is a something I mentioned, I think last week or the week before, but I'm not sure. It was during the regular time. It may have been after. It's the Periscope
Alpha T33 Periscopo.
Yeah, this is a resin print, and it came out with a lot of. I'm getting a little overloaded here on the lighting, but it came out with a lot of faceting. I don't know if I'm sure that's not the technical term.
That's a really good word for it. Yeah.
Faceting in the print itself.
Yep.
Otherwise, it was pretty good. I checked the dimensions pretty closely, and it's a little off. It's a little narrow, and it's just a fraz short. But after I worked it over with some sanding materials, it's starting to come out pretty good. This is a primer, of course, and you can see how it compares in size with the Strombecker 132nd Testarossa. Anyway, I think it's kind of interesting, and I think we're going to be seeing. Maybe a lot of you probably are a lot better connected than I am. A lot more of these kinds of different bodies becoming more available. I mean, this was on eBay, so easy to come by. Fella in Florida made it. I did have a little bit of a problem with it in that it cracked. The body cracked, and I think it had a stress riser in it or something. But it wasn't hard to repair, and I'll have to reinforce it some underneath with some tape, mesh tape, or something like that. But otherwise, I think it's working out pretty well. And his bodies, this fellow's bodies, do come with vacuum formed headlight lenses and fairings and wind screens and that sort of thing. So that's kind of good too. Anyway, that's all I have at the moment.
All righty, looking forward to seeing progress on those.
It's always such a pretty little car.
Oh, yeah. They are. They were. When you think about them being only 2 liters, I think that it said they weighed the car weighed about 1,000 pounds. They were really well designed for the they're really well designed for the mountain climbing championship.
Mm-hmm. This is one that I did from George Turner.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat. Is that your chassis design?
Yeah.
Cool. Good.
Runs really well. Very nice little car.
Thank you very much. It's fun to see.
All right, good stuff, John. Moving on, what would you like to talk about, Mr. Luff?
I got over the holidays, I made up a whiteboard to record all the lap times.
There you go. Very cool.
Hey.
Because each lane is actually slightly different. So instead of having one track record, I got a track record in each lane and in each direction. And then 5-minute endurance to go a half mile, like an actual half mile, you got to do 31.4 laps in lane 1 and 33 laps in lane 3. So
without crashing.
Going to be, sorry?
Without crashing.
Yeah. And that's why we got it a half mile, because nobody's going to be able to stay on the track for 10 minutes without crashing. Anyway, that's just instead of just having one track record, now we got like 12 to fight over.
That's cool.
Neat.
And
Yeah.
I made a thing, you got to have your own car, because most of these guys are still using my cars to
Anyway, what does the CW versus CCW mean?
Clockwise and yeah.
Oh, counterclockwise. Gotcha. Okay. You did say that.
Anyway, that's it.
So did you are those like from the craft store letters, or did you break out a Cricut or something like that, or?
Sorry?
How did you do the lettering? Was those like just craft store letter sheets, or?
I got a little vinyl cutter.
Vinyl cutter, yeah. That was my next one. Yes. Very cool.
Actually, I used to do sign work, but now I've got a little hobby sign maker. It was $200 at Michael's, and it's incredible. It's better than what I had before.
Is it like a Cricut or something like that?
It's similar, yeah, Curio or something.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, it's a good machine.
Cameo.
Cameo.
I
I got it
very
here,
good
but
machines.
I can't read it.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. And let's give Mr. Rose some time. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, we did have a race this last weekend. And why is this doing this on me?
They're trying to show that you actually got numbers on that car.
No, it was the wrong slide.
Oh.
We had our first race of the year at Mosaic. Well, that's another issue. I'll tell you about that. And we're starting to get some decent crowds. This is the third race in a row we've had to run 3 heats instead of our typical 2 with 12 or 13. We had, I think we had 20 people here and 18 or 19 in each race. And so we're getting ready for a big race on February 1st and 2nd with the NSR Classics. And so there's the field. It features the 917, the 4GT Mark 1-2, P68, and the 4GT Mark 4. Those are your 4 choices of cars. So predominantly it's P68s. That seems to be the car of choice around this track. We also ran Can-Am, so again, a big field. We've got the pseudo Can-Am cars. There are the 908s. Even though somebody questioned me about that, I think most of us know that the 908-2 did run a full season in Can-Am and actually won a Can-Am. The 908-3, which is what NSR builds, and I did the research. A 908-3 actually did run in a Can-Am race, and it's the hightail, or the one with the fins on it, not the number 8 car you see there, but a different livery, which is actually made. I think it's a 42 car that actually ran in a Can-Am. So technically, it's a Can-Am for the rivet counters. And so same with the new Lola coming out. The Lola ran in a few Can-Am races. So technically, it's going to be a Can-Am car. GT3 is pretty easy. We're all over the board with cars. We've got Racer Sideways, we've got Scale Auto, we've got NSR. On this particular day, it was the NSR Corvettes, and they're starting, I wouldn't say to take over, but they're running really well. The Can-Am, the 908s are running really good on this track. And somebody questioned me, where's your roll bar? Where's your numbers? Well, they were there. That's why the arrows are there. Sent that picture to somebody in the club that said, well, you haven't got that. So
Wait,
interestingly
sent
enough,
that
too,
to
the
you?
Can-Am class at our track allows 25K motors. And recently I took my 25 out, put the 21.5 stock NSR motor out and geared it up, and it's faster. So you don't need a super hot motor. You just have to gear it properly and get the car to work. As I said, the NSR Corvettes have, I wouldn't say they've taken over, but they're starting to run really fast. First and third were the new C8 Corvettes, and they work really good on the track. We've kind of figured them out and how to make them work. And that's another question that a lot of the people in our group have questioned, especially at Motown, because it's kind of a special track. It's so sticky. How do you get the car to go around there and everything else? So I've been putting out build sheets. And so these go out on our group, and hopefully I'll put almost everything I've got in the car or what the car consists of, so they can see kind of what's going on and how the car's built. The gray tires, the NSR spec, work very well on that track. But there's a variety. The last time I ran GT3, I ran the Aston Martin and ran it with G25. So there's various ways to get around that track fast, but I think it will help people out to show them exactly what some of us are doing. So that's Motown. We've got that big race coming up, Dewan. We want to see you here on February 1st and 2nd. And it's a spec tire race. So a lot of the, people come to Motown for the first time, like Rick and Walt and Eddie. They've come up for the first time and they've kind of been out to lunch because the tires are, it's a different track, but this is a spec tire race, so that shouldn't happen. You take the spec tires, put them on the wheels, throw some inserts in them, and they run good. So that's that part of the equation is a whole lot simpler for people coming from out of town or have never run on the track before.
Sounds good.
Speaking of Dewan.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Go ahead, Dewan.
Oh, thank you. I was gonna do a little I guess club corner thing, but I didn't take any pictures or video, but of the actual race, but I had some preliminary stuff. I'll just kind of focus on a little bit of that. Is it showing? Yeah.
Get those tracks clean.
Yeah, so that's my because the track had been sitting up for quite a bit of time, and I first did the little Swifter, and then I went around with this, and it really does make a big difference with this thing. It's a double cleaner. It's got the Carrera cleaning truck, but it has a front end with that I forgot the manufacturer, but anyway, that does a really good job of making the cars stick to the track a lot better. So that's the run. Oops. Darn. How did I do that? What did I do here? Okay, let's go back to this. All right. So yeah, this is the track. And what we did, this was a family little gathering, so it wasn't nothing competitive. And it was for New Year's Eve. We brought in the New Year playing games, and one of the games that we decided to play was slot cars. So in the meantime, and what I decided to race was the cars that Dennis finally. I had never actually put these on the track after I got up from Dennis, so this is my routine of putting an IROC race together.
How did they
And
run?
the cars matched up pretty well. It was a nice little race. So we did the 1/32 scale vintage Revo cars, and those held up pretty good.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. And the great thing is, some of those cars were actually in a Batman episode.
Yes, they were.
Yeah.
Yes, they were. And then we went from there to the 1/24 scale cars, and for these things to literally are 58-year-old cars. They were manufactured 58 years ago. And so they're not really endurance grade vehicles, but we raced them to death. And the 1/24, the pickup the lead wire was coming out of the pickup on these things quite a bit, the way they was designed, so for things to have evolved over 58 years, and for these things to be holding up as well as they did was it was a nice little trick. So yeah, that's all I had.
Well, look at us. Look at how old we are. Once in a while, a lead wire will come out.
Yeah. So okay, there's my stop share, but there it is. Found it this time. And thanks, Dennis, for the great work, and I finally put it to use.
All righty, thank you, sir. And Mike's got his hand
I'm
up.
glad to see that being used.
Mike, you have more you want to share, or you still just left your hand?
Yes. No, I didn't leave it up. I wanted it up.
Okay, go ahead.
The weight of that interior of it is 5.65 grams. Oops.
That's the original slotted interior?
That's the original interior stock.
Okay.
So, and the card, the card weighs about 1.5 grams. So it's a 4 gram reduction in up high weight on the slotted Datsun 510. So that was the advantage. I'll probably put it back in there to maybe even it out, or hit up John or somebody for some hands out flat guys. Yeah, like this Italian driving style. And there's some figures that I can glue to the cards and maybe make a little. Or the other thing I could do is I could make a Lexan interior out of that. I've been threatening to do that periodically. Maybe I should give that a shot, see if I can do a back form. So anyway, that was just information. And the car weight is 87.6 grams. Excuse me, 78.6 grams.
With your tungsten.
With the weight in it, with the extra 7 grams of weight in it.
The dyslexia adds.
What was that?
Yeah,
Don?
I usually don't have that problem, but every once in a while the brain short circuits. Those connections are old.
All right, thank you for that information. And Jeremy's got his hand up. What would you like to share today, sir?
Hey, hopefully, is my microphone working?
Much better.
It is.
All right, cool. Of course, I got the Datsun, as everybody else did, and I did my own comparisons with the Revo slot, and I think that's kind of why we have a separate class for Revo slot versus slot. There's a big difference in those cars. Second thing I got for Christmas was something kind of weird I've just always wanted. I don't know. I got this goofy Ford Thunderbird from Carrera.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a boat. And I thought, boy, this will be funny if I come up with something underneath it instead of the Carrera chassis, just because how wide and goofy it is. So that's a plan.
Slam it. Make that thing look like a lowrider.
Man, yeah, I want to get it like a hoopty. Yeah, okay. So Garth and I have been working on some projects, like the adapter for my FF motor into like a regular standard size motor. That came along really well. We've got it to where I don't have to use resin now. I can actually use it in a regular FDM printer, so I can do a little more exotic materials. And then obviously that just fits in. It converts your FF to a whatever that standard size is called, FK 130, 180. And lastly, yeah, long can, short can, FF. We've been working on. Garth has come up with these chassis for the 312, just the slot at 312 PB, just because I have like 5 of these cars that just kind of sit here because they don't really race that well against the other slotted classics these days. So I've been buying them off of guys in our club cheap. And so now I can put together 4 of them. And I've been testing Garth's chassis designs on wood track versus the actual slotted designs. I'm trying to set up both cars like I would for tuning, just so I can get some, information and data and see if this single design here works really well, how it performs. And so far it's really even, but I haven't started tuning and tweaking it yet. It's just box stock, same parts, and try it out. And they're competitive with each other, but neither one stands out yet. So that's where I'm at. Exciting.
Jeremy, on your adapters, can you lower the motor a bit in that design? to bring it close to the track?
I'm sure you could, but then you're gonna have an offset, and then you're gonna have to account for that offset in the spur gear. Like right now, it's right in the center. So if you just wanted to switch out an FF motor and put it in there, it's exactly right where it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's angle winding. The offset doesn't matter.
Yeah, the offset doesn't
Fine,
matter.
be that way. Okay, this just happens to be an angle winder.
That's why I asked the question.
This is okay, but this is like I put this in a Ninco for starts with, but yeah, I guess we could do more. Let's cross that bridge when we get to it.
Okay,
well, you're at the beginning of it.
Why doesn't the offset match an angle winder? What did I miss?
Because you come around the spur, and you can come around the spur at any angle.
Okay,
so
you don't
if
need
I lower it down here, it's still the same.
Worry about spacing and stuff like that. Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, spur gear versus a crown gear.
So Jeremy,
go ahead.
So if you're interested, Jeremy, I have photos of a T-Bird that I actually put a new chassis under. If you want to see them right now, I can show them to you or after the chat.
Sure.
Just to show you. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see what you got.
Let's see them.
All right, here we go. So now yours was the racing version. I took the the American Graffiti version.
Oh, yeah.
And that was because I really wanted the figures so I could like make different figures.
Wasn't there a girl in there? I think she was in there.
Yep. Yeah.
Suzanne Summers or something.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, Suzanne Summers with I mean, this car never had airbags, and then it did. You know, it was So, and the thing that really bugged me the most, amongst other things, was the grill is all wrong. Like it was never a blacked out grill, and these grills in the back were never blacked out. So it needed a little bit of work. That's what it looked like stock on our track. And then, of course, you pull it apart, and it's got this front motor configuration, which is okay, but not great. But I mean, there's just a switch that you'd find in your your neighborhood fridge, and there's
it's a typical Carrera. You ain't racing anybody with this thing, but
no. But I mean, exactly. But the body is so nice. It just needs a little TLC. So I used the same motor and the same drivetrain, and just created a front motored chassis, right, with an old motor to sort of hold the drive shaft. Hopefully you can see that there. I mean, you don't have to do this, but I wanted to keep the full interior and take the top off. And then keep going. I'll just keep going here so you can see. Oh, sorry. I kept that stupid spring thing. By the way, that I think I mentioned before, but if you use insulation from speaker wire, it works a lot better. But I thought, okay, it's on. I'm not going to pull it off. I put two pieces of, basically two styrene blocks to mount the chassis. And then I actually made the grill as it should be. And what I used, believe it or not, was nail polish remover.
Oh.
Yeah, with and then I put an actual real, more human looking female in there.
So it's silver underneath the black paint, is it, John?
Yeah, so they put black paint, which is I guess it's acrylic based, on top of chroming, so it's really easy to take off. So if you're careful, you still got the black in the indentations, and it looks like a real grill.
Good job.
Nice.
So then I put American mags on because I thought that would look kind of cool. And again, it's a street car, so we just have fun driving it around. And the chassis went. Oh, those are my wheels, by the way. Tires and inserts. So that's the chassis. I'm kind of whipping through this because there are a lot of photos. And there's the body mounted on the chassis. Now I did lower it a little bit just to make it look a little, not too slammed, but at least a little more customized. And again, as I said, a female figure that doesn't have airbags. And it has a bit of a rake to it, but it turned out, and it goes around the track, so it's fun. I mean, it's not going to set any world records or anything, but that's what I use. I use nail polish remover and a Q-tip, and that's me taking you can see the difference here. I'll zoom in between before and after.
Mm.
So I think, you know, they make great models. They really do.
They make great bodies.
Yeah, exactly. See that, and then yeah, with a little bit of tidying, you got a nice little scale model that'll go around the track.
Great detail, great liveries, but the bodies tend to be quite heavy and the chassis is quite restrictive.
Oh well.
Yep.
Oh, and I added a little black to the exhaust port there because the exhaust actually did come through the bumper. These cars were not built or designed to last.
Yeah.
But so there you go. And if you want to make it a 50, sorry, say again.
I said, cool. Next year, I won't tell you what I'm going to buy, and let's see if you can have anything chambered. Good luck, John. I'm not going to tell you what it is.
Okay, all right. It's all about retrieval. That's all it is.
I mean, if it's classic, you can almost be assured that John will have it somewhere.
Anyway, I hope that helps, because once you put a different chassis or whatever you want, it's a cool little car.
Yeah. Cool. All right, Mike, did you have something new, or did you want to circle back on something?
No, I'm done.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'm going to do my share because my photos have finally backed up. So, come on. All right, can you see that? I assume so.
Yep.
So this is the track, the facility I went to. It's in a business, but it's not a business. Basically, the guy he must be high up in the hierarchy of this business, but there's like a warehouse and everything. So this is like the big lunchroom, break room area, and it's basically completely filled with slot car tracks. So this is, as you can see, a 6-lane polycar track. This is, I don't know what the footprint is, but it's got to be at least 30 by 12 or something like that, maybe 16 by 30. It's big. So I took several pictures while I was. He basically lets people come over for a couple hours during lunch on Wednesdays every once in a while, and so I took the opportunity to go in there and play around on their track. So I took a panorama of this track as well as several far away shots, so you can kind of get a feel for the layout. I also did a little video. We'll see how well that works. Here's the panorama. Obviously, it's all bent because it's panorama-ing.
Is that the stop start sign in a corner, or is it just a panorama? It's a straight, right there. The
oh yeah, no, it's a straight. Yeah, it's because of the panorama.
It scared me. I thought, what the heck?
Yeah, no, definitely not a big curve. So here's it from afar, so kind of an overview shot, so you can see that's the main straightaway.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a big track.
It is pretty big, and from the other two sides and from the other corner, it's a good track. I mean, there were some tricky bits and some easier bits, and I would absolutely enjoy racing there. He races. It's big enough to race 124th cars, so they race BRMs as well as scale auto 124 and all kinds of 132nd cars.
What kind of track is it?
It's polycar track.
Okay.
I brought a variety of cars.
Sorry to interrupt. I love the theater seats there. Those are cool.
Yeah, he used to actually have those on a makeshift bleacher arrangement for one of the tracks he used to have. In fact, this was I'm pretty sure I went over pictures of this facility years ago, right after COVID, and we started doing this. I had pictures. I wanted to show this off. All of the original tracks have been replaced by these tracks that I'm showing off now. This one obviously is the centerpiece track with the big track, 6 lanes. But he's also got this 2-lane polycar landscape track, scenic track. This is actually in his garage, and they had to see if I got a picture of it. Oh. So yeah, you can't really see it, but they basically had to open up a wall in this room in order to bring his 2-lane track into the room, because it was all just one big giant piece, right? So they brought it in through the warehouse doors and then chopped a giant hole in the wall of the lunchroom to bring the track into the lunchroom area, and then plop it down. Anyways, this is really cool. This is also Polycar, 2-lane, obviously, landscaped. Got lots of little hairpin turns in here, but it's a pretty fun little layout. Now this is interesting. This is obviously a 1-lane rally loop, so just one car at a time. I don't remember the name of the brand, but this is that track from somewhere in Europe that's basically supposedly like it's got the best continuity because he does, you know, like banana plugs between each piece of track. So it's not just the rail to rail connection that's bringing power from piece to piece, but also his much more complicated power delivery process.
Isn't it sectional wood, guy? Isn't it sectional?
It is.
Yeah.
I've
seen it, but I forget the name right now.
Yeah, so from the top, it looks like my first reaction when I first saw it was, is this scale auto? No, that's not the right color. You know, did he paint it? It's not the right texture. You know, what's going on? And then I forget where it is. I think it's right here. That little hole there is where the power is coming into the track, and I'm like, oh, okay, I recognize that. But yeah, it's basically it's got a plastic slot liner that also holds the rails. So on both sides of each rail, there's plastic, and then the slot itself is plastic. And then all of that is embedded into MDF. And then the MDF is painted with, I mean, honestly, it just looked like some kind of spray paint, but it supposedly has some kind of, textured, embedded in the paint or something. It didn't seem especially
that design, Greg, looks like a great idea for a quick serve sushi bar.
Have cars running around with sushi on them. Yeah, the owner paid for this as a modular, or so he could build it up as a modular thing to do, fundraising events and stuff like that. Apparently, like the starter kit is 2 of these end loop sections, and then a couple of straight sections for connecting them with the power and stuff. And so he bought all these other extra sections. I didn't get an actual price. I'm sure you can investigate pricing, but it's incredibly expensive. Not worth it, in his opinion. Not worth it, in my opinion. And we'll get to
Greg,
that.
Sorry to interrupt again, but we've got Luft here. Like Luft could build something like that.
Everybody in this chat could build something like this with MDF and tape. You don't need to buy this guy's super expensive thing. But you're gonna get even more reasons why not to spend money on this thing when I show you the video here in a sec. But I went ahead and I tried to take video of me driving around these things, so get a couple of laps here.
Oh, sorry, I got to interrupt you. I love the elevation there. That's neat.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Now, does it run in both directions too, Greg?
Yeah, all of his tracks have polarity switches, so each lane can be flipped whatever direction you want to run.
Oh, I love that track. Oh, yeah, that's really cool.
It's only a few inches, but yeah, it's all you need to get.
It's all you need. Yeah.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Thank you, Wayne. And...
Well, I was going to say it's the difference between ooh and ah.
Okay, so here, watch this. This is me. Now, this is not my fault. Okay. That's not my fault. Watch.
How did that happen?
Yeah, you're going to see why this track should absolutely not be paid for. You hear that clacking?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like an Eldon track. Oh, that's not
joint,
cool.
Yeah,
Well, I guess whoever designed it was smoking a joint.
Oh, my.
Oh, no.
Oh, my God. Like, that's not even, that's probably the worst one on the track, but multiple joints are like that. That's basically when you're going around the turns, you're just hearing this click, 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 click of the guide hitting all these little imperfections in the joinery.
So he doesn't have any kind of self-centering for each section?
He apparently did not. So,
okay.
And then here I am on the big track. This was a little bit harder to video and drive at the same time.
Is this the first time you've raced on Well, run on polycar, Greg.
It is, and that's the main reason that I wanted to go and spend some time here.
Yeah, Auburn.
Because this is, I've never raced on polycar. I mean, I have a
Did you
couple
like
of
it, elevation change there too?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave here.
What was that, John?
Did you like the polycar?
I enjoyed it. Yeah, I didn't feel like I had to do anything to the tires other than, get the dust off from when we first got there. It was pretty dusty. And I ran a Group 5, sideways Group 5 on there with the stock wheels and tires that are not known to be particularly good, without magnets. And it ran pretty good. I didn't, obviously you would do better, with, better tires and stuff, but I liked it.
That track sort of reminds me of the one from the Michigan National that they had this fall. That was, I think that was a polycar track.
Yeah, that was Scale Auto.
In Michigan.
It was Scale Auto, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
I mean, either way, I'm sure Scale Auto is great to run on too.
With the type of surface that it has, is it more difficult to clean, or I mean, did it clean up after you drove around a little bit?
I mean, the tires picked up dust like they do on any track, but I didn't feel like it took longer to clean the track than any other kind of track, I guess is a good way to say it.
Well, I got to tell you again, I really like the elevation, like with the crossover. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I like that little track as well.
The thing about polycar is it will tolerate a little dust because it's got that surface which is actually a lot of recesses.
Yeah, it would take a lot of dust for it to cause problems. You would see it. You'd be like, oh crap, I need to vacuum this track.
But thank you for showing that modular rally track, because I would have thought it would have been better.
Yes, most people seeing his promotional materials would have thought it would have been better. Yeah, and he even went as far as to drill a bunch of holes in the surface on several pieces and made his own makeshift ramps and basically rally raid obstacles for him to do his raid cars over, like Ninco raid stuff, which was cool, but obviously not something that track was specifically designed for.
So you're telling me we can't believe what's on the internet?
Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I never would have bought that stuff just based on the price, even if it was perfect, slots matching up and everything. Even if it was everything the guy said it was, just not worth the money to me. But seeing it in person sure makes me glad I did not.
It's really deep as well, isn't it? It's really thick.
Yes, it is, yeah. And at first when I was driving the car around, I'm like, is this guide hitting the bottom of the slot? It's just a standard slotted guide. It shouldn't be hitting the bottom of the slot. Nope, it was catching all those little imperfections in the
That's
side.
like the slot car equivalent of a dating app. It's just not what you expect.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
But this guy was just an overwhelming slot car enthusiast, huh?
Absolutely, and of course I didn't take pictures of it, but he provides IROC cars for.
How do we should get him on the chat? It would be awesome.
He knows about it. I've invited him, but he works. He's a normal guy.
Well, hey, listen, I'll contribute. Does he want donuts or coffee? I mean, I'll give you $5. I mean, yeah.
I'll invite him again. I'll tell him to come watch this episode so he can see all the people umming and awing over his tracks. But yeah, like I said,
we need to slate them all now. So we need to slate them all now so that he can come and defend them.
That's true too. But yeah, those are new tracks from the last time I'd been to that building. Before it had a 4-lane Scalextric Sport analog track, a fairly sizable 2-lane Scalextric digital track, and then a really long, narrow wood routed track in the actual warehouse area, and then probably another, like a 2-lane or 4-lane little practice track or something like that. All of those are gone now. These are all there. I don't know, maybe 5 years from now, there's going to be a giant scale auto track in there. Who knows? And of course,
Well,
like
he's
I was
got
saying,
everything he needs
he's got
to.
tons and tons of cars. He's got some money to share his love with.
It sounds like he's got everything he needs to start a club there.
Oh, he does. He runs a club. Yeah.
Oh yeah, got you.
Yeah. The only reason I don't race there regularly is because A, I have plenty of racing in my life. I don't need more. B, it's relatively far away to be traveling, on a weeknight. It's further away than the guys I currently race with. And there's a couple of guys that I know race there occasionally that I don't abide. So that's another reason.
Where is it, Greg?
That is in Renton, I guess. Technically, it's near the Boeing fields, South Seattle, basically.
Hi.
Okay, that's it for me. Anybody else got anything they want to talk about? Floor is open.
I have a question for you, Greg.
Okay.
Your Scale Auto tire cleaner. I know you use that at Allen's. Is this it?
I
know you use that at Allen's. Have you ever used it?
Hold it up again. It says tire
I'm now
cleaner.
spotlighting. That is
tire
fun.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
Yes. I got that on your recommendation.
Sorry.
It works. No, I actually listen to things you say, and I throw out the bad stuff, keep the good stuff.
I'll assume that this was a good one.
Well, no, for my big cars, for my 24 scale cars, they're, if the tires sit a couple weeks, it's actually pretty good. It brings them back pretty good. But of course, my question comes down to proxy racing. I would like to do a little better. I like winning. Winning is fun. I did a couple experiments on some cars here on my track, and it appears even after I clean them, run them, let them sit for a few days, just clean them with the product, and then run them, let them sit for a few days, and then just lint roller them and tape them and do all that. It seems like it holds up pretty good. Do you have any experience? Now for my question, I'd like to bring into my question phase. My question will be one question in 3 parts. Have you ever used it on rubber tires? Have you left it sit and had results, after multiple days? And what are your thoughts about using this for a proxy tire?
We tend to use it at the beginning of every race night. Some tires, that's not good because they start to degrade more quickly. Some tires need it every race night, like the Pioneer, Supathanes, kind of weirdo tires that they are, need it every night. Some tires don't. I guess what I would say is if your tests showed that it maintained good grip after days of not being raced and then just doing the lint roller, then whatever tire you put it on is probably a good choice for using that in a proxy race. I can't say how long it's going to last. I mean, proxies are, half a dozen tracks, right?
Well, yeah, it can be 6, 7, 8, 9 months.
Yeah. What do you normally do for tires before you send them off? Nothing at all? No oil, no nothing?
Well, yeah, I oil them. I mean, a lot of guys polish them with lighter fluid. I've done that. I don't do that anymore. I polish them and then I like to run them and send them that way. But once they
the cleaner is basically mostly lighter fluid with some oil additives. Hell, it might just be Kingsford in a different bottle. So it's going to have a lot of similar, effects as doing the lighter fluid like on NSR tires and similar to give them a good polish, and it has the the other oil stuff in there to soften the tire as well.
You may be onto something. Maybe that is the next tire sauce, is lighter fluid with a little NSR oil thinned down in it to help it absorb. Look at that.
I mean,
you are
don't give that to
pioneer.
me. I mean, Chris
You're
is
a pioneer.
Chris
You don't
many
even know
times.
it.
Chris has suggested Kingsford straight up multiple times.
Yeah,
Pretty sure Dennis
and I've
has
done that.
corroborated that. Yeah, and it's been if I had like a spectral analysis machine or whatever, I would not at all be surprised to find that whatever is in that Scale Auto stuff is very, very similar to whatever is in Kingsford, which might be very similar to basically lighter fluid plus 3-in-1 or whatever people say the NSR tire oil is, 5W30.
Interesting. Food for thought.
I would expect that the lighter fluid probably, helps the oil get in there better or deeper or something. I don't know.
The thing that worries me a little about the Scale Auto stuff is I'm wondering whether there's not a little bit of lacquer thinners in it. Because that really makes a tire sticky, but it will degrade the tire really badly after a little while.
I haven't noticed them becoming like sticky, like when you overheat tires on a truer. Turns them sticky.
I don't know that stuff very well at all, because the only time I've ever seen it is when Alan's put it on my tires, whether I wanted it or not. Most times I didn't, but he would do it anyway. But if it was any of the Trinity things, they always had a little bit of some other more aggressive stuff in them. Sometimes like a bit of oil of wintergreen or something like that. And over the period of a proxy, it's not that much of a problem if you're preparing the tire that way, but if it's been done and used like that over and over as it goes around the proxy, then I would think that you're going to get into trouble. But I would still steer away from those things and stay with some Kingsford.
Yeah.
It depends again on the tire, of course. If you're doing it with G25s, then the effect of any of those oils and things is much less than if you were doing it on ultra grips or extreme grips. Jim will hopefully Jim would bear me out on that. And I've seen some of the guys, running even Revo slot 30s and things like that have been over oiled, and then they chunk and they grain like crazy. Been a couple of photos on Facebook the last couple of days with that.
Yeah, that one on Facebook is crazy.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'll mention about the difference between the Scale Auto stuff versus lighter fluid on an NSR type tire is that the lighter fluid really does give it a hard polish, I guess you could say. As soon as the lighter fluid evaporates, the tire is still mirror shiny and has a very high coefficient of friction, but it's not tacky. Whereas you use the Scale Auto on it and it'll be shiny, but it'll still have an oily feeling for a lot longer. So that's definitely,
when you say lighter fluid, and you mentioned
about Roncinol, Zippo, Roncinol.
Surely they're different. They're fairly different materials. They may be both called lighter fluids, but I don't think Kingsford is a very high naphtha. If it's naphtha, it's not a very high grade of naphtha.
There's a bunch of other crap in there.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ronson. That stuff even has butane in it too, I think. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, it's not made from butane,
but it's a cleaner. It's a cleaner material.
Yeah, no, but it's as part of the blend. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when I say lighter fluid, I'm talking about Zippo or Roncinol, the type of stuff you put into a lighter, like a Zippo lighter. But yeah, that's like even more naphtha than whatever's in the Scale Auto. I mean, I know some like the club guy that I just visited. They're not, don't put anything on your tires because they know enough to know that people will still put shit on their tires even if they say no. But they don't want to see people sitting there going for 5 minutes trying to get the perfect polish just from the tire cleaner stuff on there. I don't know. Your mileage may vary. Is that a good answer, Courtney? Sorry.
Yeah, that was a great non-answer. I'm going to vote for you for mayor of Worldwide Slot Car Zoomtown.
Perfect. Vote for Greg.
Zoomtown.
Right, floor is still open.
Send money for his campaign.
I am the fascist leader of Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom. I don't need to take a vote.
De facto.
Benevolent dictator.
Benevolent
dictator. His campaign slogan is "Rub off," eh?
Rub off, eh? Poser.
I wanted to make another comment to Jeremy. Jeremy, about your insert or adapter.
Yeah.
Because of the smaller shaft on those 050 motors, they are smaller pinions.
They're 1.5.
So if I would,
yeah.
But the diameter, the biggest diameter they make is a 5.5. I've tried to find some 6s, but they say they're 6s and they come in as 5s. So I like those in a Sidewinder. And I should paraphrase that, I am only speaking from my experience because that's my favorite one and that's the one that counts for me. In a Sidewinder configuration, like I like to run them, you have to get that thing moved back. So if you were to make an adapter and slide that towards have it, lowered and slid towards the back, that would be very interesting.
So the smaller pinion would then hit the spur gear and not miss it. That is like move it in the picture of here, move it down to this corner where the spur gear is back here.
That's correct. And of course, the minimum is a 19 millimeter tire. So I really like using a 17.5 NSR or I really like using a 17.5 NSR gear or the MR slot car 16.5. I like those too. So there's your engineering Garthism for today.
I'll let Garth do the math on that one, but the problem is that when you move the shaft, see how the red part is where it comes, how far over. I can only move it a millimeter or two over before it hits the red.
There. Yeah, we'll take every bit you can get.
Okay, I guess. Let's say I think somebody already didn't MR slot car. They already do this. They already have a Sidewinder pod for their stuff.
Yeah.
But it only fits in their their chassis and pods. So unless Garth wants to design
and it doesn't even fit in all of it doesn't even fit in all of their chassis either. It only fits in some of them.
There you go.
Oh.
The weird part about, because I've tried, and the weird part about it is that
why am I on spotlight? Get me off of the camera. Okay.
The weird part is you can fit it all in, but the screws that hold the pod in get in the way of the gear. If you use the bigger gear, you have to use the small gear and the big pinion. Something like that. I'm a little confused in my thoughts at the moment. I'd have to go and look at it. But I built a 333 Ferrari from the MR slot car kit, and I used the FF050 motor in their pod, and there are two different gear combinations that they have, but one of them fits, one of them works and one of them doesn't, and not because the mesh is bad, but because they foul the gear fouls the body mount posts. That was what it was. It wasn't the pod post; it's the body mount post.
Mm.
Let me go and get it.
So you probably
Courtney,
need the smaller gear.
Well, send me an email and I'll get one of these sent out to you, and you can kind of look at it and see how far over it needs to go or
You
can
sent
go.
me some. You sent me some
Oh, did I
resin
send you
ones.
some?
Yeah, you
Yeah,
sent
the
me some
resin ones
resin.
break. Yeah.
Yeah, you said that. I tested them. They're not bad. I put them in a scale auto pod or a slotted pod, and they seem to work fine. An angle winder pod. Let me rephrase that. An angle winder pod. But of course, I glued them in. I didn't just rely on the hardware.
Dead air.
I mean,
I think
Dennis
I
said
had
he's
some photos of it somewhere.
Yeah. Chappie, you got something?
Yeah, let me see if I can show some pictures here.
We're gonna have a race between Chappie and Dennis. Go ahead. Who's gonna get pictures
I'll
up
let him
first?
go. I'll find one in a moment.
So this is for John earlier. The Alpha is available in a couple of versions. This is the Mugello version.
With not seeing anything yet.
Hang on. Let's do this. How about now?
It's coming.
There we go. Number 23.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the other version of the Periscopa that they ran at the Mugello race with the smooth rear end. But Vlad, and that's my chassis. But Vlad also made the Periscopa as well. So both of those are available.
It might have been Vlad's file.
It sure looked like Vlad's file to me, yeah.
Could have been.
How much but John said his had a lot of visible facets on the print. Vlad usually does smooth models.
Well, he does, but some of these early alphas were a little rough.
Okay.
So that might have been his file because this car was sanded and smoothed a bit before I was done with it.
Probably is then.
So that would be my guess because I think the original Periscopa file is out in the wild, and I don't think this Mugello file is out there. I think he kept that one because that was one he did himself. Anyway, car's available.
Cool.
Are they on Colts 3D?
Good, thank you.
And if you don't have a 33 in your collection, you're not an Alfisti. That's for dead sure.
Well, you got to have them all, you know, I mean, you have to have the Periscopa and the Mugello, and then you got to have the several versions of the Daytona, and then you got to have the 4-liter Can-Am version that they ran, and then the final turbo version. So, I mean, there's several options there.
All right, Dennis, you got your stuff ready?
Yep. Let me show you. So this is a photograph that I took of. This has the slimline motor in the MR slot car pod with the 16.5 millimeter gear and the 5 millimeter pinion with the 1.5 hole, and it all fits in. It meshes beautifully until you put the pod into the chassis, and then you can see, if you can see where my cursor is. Right around the right around the left-hand rear body post, the gear actually fouls the protrusion there for where the screw comes through. So it will not turn.
You need to grind that post down a little bit flatter.
You would have to grind the post away, but so much that I was worried about interfering with the head of the screw. So what I had to do was to go to the smaller gear. There's a 14.5 or something, or a 15.5 gear. What did he say? The 16.5. He said the 15.5 black gear. There it is. And then, and with the 15.5 black gear and the 5.5 millimeter pinion, then it all worked. And I don't have a photograph of that now, so I'll just stop this share so you can just see all the rest of it.
Can't you just grind the gears off there? Just grind the teeth down.
Love. I would have taken all of the teeth off.
Worth a try.
Then I would have had zero mesh. No, it wasn't going to work.
Dennis, you just need to print yourself a gear that fits.
Well, fortunately, the smaller MR slot car gear and the bigger MR slot car pinion actually worked fine. I've got the car, but you can't see much, I'm afraid. But it does. I still had to shave the front of the body posts, on the chassis and the body just a little bit to make sure there was clearance. But it's something to think about. Maybe on one of the other cars where the body posts are in a different place at the rear of the car, maybe it would fit. But on the Ferrari, it didn't fit. Because I did
McLaren, I didn't have any problem with it.
Yeah, I was trying to create one for Electric Dreams' LMP class to try and do something different, and it didn't work. You could see how the gear. Do it this way around. You see how the gear is right in line with where the body mount screw is.
Oh yeah.
And so the bigger gear just fouls on the post. Anyway,
do the FF motors make much magnetic downforce at all?
Muted,
no
Dennis.
takers.
Dennis is talking, but he doesn't realize.
Professor Motor is neodymium magnet, so it should give quite a bit.
Oh yeah, but that our rules allowed only a 25K motor and no neo magnets, so we have to run the one of the very few motors that's available is that Scale Auto one, and on the Electric Dreams track, which had magnetic braid up until around about tomorrow, you could get some downforce out of an open motor, but on that one, you could feel that there was nothing there. Now, of course, that I guess is the other news that's coming is the there's lots of news out of Electric Dreams if you guys want to hear it.
Sure.
Whatever you want to tell us.
The Cunningham flat track, the 6-lane wood track, is being rebraided completely. We're taking up the existing braid. We're re-leveling the braid recesses so that we can drop the braid ever so slightly more than it was originally when it was built. And it's been rebraided completely with regular copper braid. That's the first thing that's news. The second thing is that there's been major changes inside the store. The area where I used to have my workbench and where Marco had his studio, where all the podcasts are done from and all the interviews, all of that is being moved up into onto a mezzanine floor that's been built inside the store. And that whole area where his office and my desk and other things were, there is now an 8-lane flat wooden track, the one that used to be in Buena Park Raceway. That is being set up there. And I guess from tomorrow or the day after, we are going to have that track has been restored. It's going to be reflattened, rebraided, repainted, all the barriers fixed, and brand new wiring and power all the way through it. But by the time we're done, by the 1st of February, hopefully we will have 3 tracks up and running in Electric Dreams, 2 wooden tracks and the polycar track, and a lot more space for more inventory, apparently. And the guys like us who actually have to work there will have to climb a set of stairs to get to our desks. This is probably not bad for us either, you know.
There's a restroom going in too, isn't there?
Oh, and there's a restroom going in right up at the front door, yeah. So you won't have to go walking all the way back to the back of the store for the restroom. And so that you can get onto you can have to watch what your friends eat, because the door of the restroom is going to be right where you drive. So,
is it on the Herbie side?
Taco free
it's on
now.
the Herbie side where Herbie used to be.
Where Herbie used to be? So
yeah,
Herbie's
we actually had to take the end piece of the track right off and move it out of the way in order to get Herbie out of there.
So it's right by the door?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right by the door.
Does that mean that the counter will move backward in the shop as well? Wasn't the counter at the back of the Cunningham Raceway with
originally the counter was there, but when we put the polycar track in, we moved the counter to the side onto the side wall anyway.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Oh yeah, it's on as you come in the front doors. It's on the left side towards the
way
back
down.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going to have.
So the whole store becomes far deeper.
That's right.
So you have 24 scale racing now.
What is the Buena Park Raceway circuit? Is it a king?
No, it's a flat track. It's an MTT flat track. Let me see if I can find the photos.
They're putting in a different track at Buena Park.
So there is no Buena Park Raceway anymore.
Or Piranha.
Piranha's, and we are not putting in a new track there. They're just rebraiding the one that is there already. At this point in time.
Because it sounds to me like a biggish slot car track is going to be a lot bigger than that studio in your desk was.
It takes the studio and my desk and a little bit of space behind that store.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a little bit more. I'm just trying to see if I could find.
And that's going to. My understanding, that's going to be for 1/24th only.
No.
Am I not right? Both.
We're going to run 1/24th scale retros on there. We're going to run 1/24th scale hard bodies there, and they're going to run 1/32nd scale 1/32nd scale GT3s and Formula Ones and things like that. Plastic cars on it. All right, I've got a picture of the track. This is how the track looked when it was in Buena Park.
Yeah.
Okay. When it was first set up in Buena Park.
Oh, okay.
So it's one of those weird ones that looks like it has a flyover, but it doesn't have a crossover in it. Or it has 2 crossovers, which means that the inner lanes are much shorter than the outer lanes.
It's an oval.
But it's actually it's a fun track. It's not that difficult to learn. A little bit difficult to learn to drive well, but the people down here are very fond of this track.
And does that go clockwise or counterclockwise?
It goes left to right on the driver's stand. So here, red lane on the left-hand side of the driver's stand. It goes from there away into the distance. So you're going left to right in front of the drivers. So I guess that would be clockwise, right? No, anti-clockwise.
Well, that's the track they were running 30-second on, wasn't it?
Yes, we had started, or Walter Baines had started running a series there before Buena Park Raceway closed, and it was great because the owners at the time allowed us to clean the track, so we would clean it down completely, clean all the spray glue off on a Friday afternoon, and come in on Saturday morning, clean it all again, and then run on it. And we ran with the rubber tires with NSRs and things like that very successfully. It was great. So yeah, that one is good. It's going in right in front, as I said, right in front of, or right where we used to be. Let me see if I could find the picture that Marco sent me when it was in there. Are you seeing me scroll through here?
Yes.
All right. So there's this is the mezzanine floor section. Marco's office used to be between this door and that little mark there that's on the wall underneath this Formula 5000. And then my desk was in front of that here. So we've cleared all of that space. All of us are going upstairs. The new track comes in there. Oh no, this is going upstairs. Hang on, let me go back. I do have a picture coming. There we go. That's the one. There he is.
Oh,
so it fits there quite. It actually fits there quite nicely. The drivers would be along that back section there, and that's how it is. The dragster that's on the left side here is now up against the wall on the right side. The Formula 5000 that was in the racking along here is hanging up against the wall, as you saw in that other photo.
So that's a few feet longer than Cunningham Raceway, isn't it?
Oh, quite a few, yeah. Cunningham is like 90, and I think this is like 130 or 135.
Dennis, did you already discuss that Cunningham Raceway is getting rebraided with no Magna braid?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought that was awesome.
Were you not listening, or were you on another call?
No, I was on the phone. Sometimes I have to work. Sorry.
Oh, you poor fellow. We feel for you, man. We feel your pain.
I knew you did.
Not.
You're a giver. Oh, I was on the phone with Pablo. You know Paul Wolcott?
Yeah, I know Pablo. So this is the dragster going up against the wall. Marco sends me these pictures every now and then. And then this was the Formula 5000 going up against this wall. What else have I got? Oh, and then this, so you might as well see this. This was Kristen doing the ribbon cutting ceremony for the mezzanine. Can you believe Marco found this whole mezzanine thing ready assembled on Craigslist?
Cool.
It had to take it down and bring it in here. He said if it had been 1 inch wider, it would not have fitted.
There he is.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Don't go to the top of the stair and turn left.
No.
Nice. Oh man, replace that bulb.
Yeah. There's a whole bunch of new lighting coming in there. But yeah.
Bong.
That's Mark.
How long ago was this shot?
Maybe a week.
Okay.
Because now what's happening is that the floor's being ground and polished. The concrete is all being ground and polished, and then the track's being assembled. And once this area is done, then the track will be assembled here, set up nice and flat again. All the surface redone, the braid ripped up, the recesses rerouted or reskimmed so that they're all the same depth. New braid in everywhere. Well, repainted, new braid, new lane coloring, and I'm not sure what they're going to do about the side barriers. But the old track used to have a rubber side barrier with a siding that was used like I don't know what they called it, a flashing that had a little curve at the bottom of it, and it was horrible for anything like a long 124 scale Formula One car. You get too wide on the corner and it would ride up against that flashing and the car would be on the floor. So hopefully that's going to be taken away and it'll just be a regular flat section flush with the surface.
All by February 1st?
February 1st is what we do, is what we've been told, yeah.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Yeah. Well, Bob Scott is there. I mean, well, Bob is actually right now busy with the track at Piranha, stripping off the old braid that was on that track since it was built by the Lithuanian or Latvian guy, Jonas Nabokins. And because that track was built for the 2020 Worlds, and it's been running the same braid all the way till now, and it's really, really bad in places. So it's all been stripped down and new braid put in. Hopefully that job will be finished tomorrow. And then he starts on the tracks at Electric Dreams.
Very good.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I've just
very
found
much
something
so.
to share. I've just found something to share.
You got 2.5 minutes.
Well, that's about how long it should take, quite honestly. But let me if I can remember how to do this, I need to
tap the screen, tap more, tap.
Yeah,
you're down to 2 minutes now.
Bro.
Plus 50.
Minute 45. Here we go. I think we're getting there. I'm on a different mobile phone, so it's all new. Okay. I think we're there. This was, I found this in a motorway service area on the way home from visiting parents for Christmas.
Hold on. Is it just me, or am I only seeing a chunk of the picture for some reason?
Me too.
Yeah, we're just seeing the top part, yeah.
You rotate your phone to portrait and then back again. Maybe it glitched out.
There you go.
Now we see the whole
thing.
There we go. Okay.
So I found these in a motorway service area on clearance. And it's a Santa's workshop, and it's made of tin, and it's got some biscuits inside them. But if you've noticed, if you take a look around inside Santa's workshop, what's on the floor?
A train track.
No. Anyhow.
Nice try.
They were very popular because there were plenty of them left for sale.
Yeah.
But we had to purchase one.
So you bought one for all of it?
Yeah.
Bought one to share. So it does have a little electric light inside, I discovered. There's a switch in the roof, and that's actually a mirror. So and when you wind it up, the hammer goes up and down in the elf's hand. I would have loved it if the cars went around the track, of course, but they're just a painting. And I just saw this and I thought the guys in the chat are gonna titter. And I enjoyed eating all your biscuits. I mean, if you see there, they're pictured on the front, they're little stars. And in the beginning of the chat tonight, I finished off the last one. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed them.
So you're gonna put that on your protector?
So we're each getting one, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That was. I thought about you all as I ate them.
All right, and on that note, we're going to end the live stream. So I'm clicking the end button. Everybody wait, bye till next week. Bye till next week, and clicking the end, and then waiting for it to say it's over, and it says it's over, but it's